My grandpa fell really badly. I'm heading there now to take care of him. My daughter told me and rushed to care for him. I couldn't make it because I had a meeting with a client, so I let her go alone. But something felt off. Why didn't my father call me directly? Why her? I couldn't shake the unease crawling up inside me. So I made a decision that would change everything. I showed up unannounced. What I heard through that window, my own daughter's voice cold and calculating, nearly made my knees buckle. That moment shattered everything I thought I knew about family. And it was only the beginning of the nightmare I never saw coming. I'm grateful you're here today. Before we continue, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. It helps this story reach more people. Just a quick note. Parts of this story include fictional details added for educational and storytelling purposes. Any resemblance to real names or settings is coincidental, while the ideas behind it may still resonate. I never thought a phone call from my daughter would lead me to discover the darkest betrayal of my life. But that Monday morning in late October, as I stood behind the counter of Lawson's Furniture Gallery, Lauren's voice on the other end trembled with concern. "Dad, it's Grandpa Raymond. He had a fall. I'm heading to Pinewood right now." My hand froze halfway to the coffee mug. Autumn light slanted through the storefront windows, catching dust motes in golden shafts. "A fall? Is he okay? Did you call an ambulance?" "Oh, he's conscious. Just shaken up. He called me instead of 911. You know how stubborn he is." Her voice softened. "I know you've got the Johnson appointment today, Dad. The big one. I can handle this. I'll stay with him, make sure he's all right." I exhaled slowly, guilt and relief mixing in my throat. The Johnsons were set to arrive in an hour, ready to finalize a $15,000 order for their lake house renovation. 28 years running this place had taught me that missing appointments like that could mean losing clients for good. "Are you sure, honey, I can reschedule?" "Dad, I've got this. You've done enough for Grandpa over the years. Let me help." Her words settled something in me. My little girl, all grown up and responsible. I remembered her at 6 years old, sprawled on the showroom floor with crayons, drawing pictures of sofas with faces. Now she was 30, a marketing professional with her own apartment downtown, stepping up for family. "Okay," I said. "But call me when you get there, and tell him I'll come by tonight after I close up." "I will. Love you, Dad." "Love you too, sweetheart." The line went dead. Marcus, my lead sales associate, glanced over from where he was rearranging throw pillows on a display sofa. "Everything all right, boss?" "Yeah, just my dad. Lauren's checking on him." My father had always been the strongest man I knew, a man who'd raised me on a postal worker's salary, who'd taught me the value of honest work. But he was 78 now, and since Mom passed 3 years ago, he'd seemed smaller somehow. Frailer. The thought of him alone in that house 45 minutes away in Pinewood made something twist in my gut. Still, I pushed it aside. Lauren was there. Lauren would take care of him. The morning crawled by. The Johnsons arrived at 9 sharp, a well-dressed couple with expensive taste and exacting standards. I walked them through bedroom sets and dining tables, keeping my voice steady and professional, even as my mind kept drifting north to Pinewood, to the white 2-story house on Oak Ridge Drive where I'd grown up. By the time they signed the contract, it was nearly noon. I tried calling Raymond, no answer. Tried again, still nothing. I called Lauren. "Hey, Dad." Her voice was bright, almost too bright. "Grandpa's fine. He's resting now." I turned his phone to silent so he wouldn't be disturbed. "Can I talk to him?" A pause. Just a beat too long. "He's asleep. I don't want to wake him." "Okay, you staying for dinner?" "Maybe. I'll text you later." She hung up before I could say anything else. I stood there in the backroom office staring at the phone in my hand. Something felt off. Not wrong exactly, just off. Like a picture frame hanging slightly crooked, barely noticeable but impossible to ignore once you'd seen it. I thought about the past few months. Lauren visiting more often, asking casual questions about finances, about the store's revenue, about Raymond's will. At the time, I'd chalked it up to her getting older, thinking about the future. But now, and Evelyn, my wife of 32 years, who'd been spending more and more time away taking trips with her book club friends, her yoga group, her college roommate. When had we stopped talking? When had she started feeling like a stranger in our own house? Then there were the bank statements. I'd noticed the recurring transfers a few weeks back, $4,200 every Wednesday like clockwork. When I'd asked Evelyn about it, she'd said it was an automatic payment to one of our suppliers. I'd accepted that without question. Why wouldn't I? She handled the bookkeeping. But what if I'd been wrong to trust so easily? By 5 o'clock, I couldn't take it anymore. I flipped the sign on the door to closed, told Marcus and Jennifer to head home, and grabbed my jacket. The drive to Pinewood took 45 minutes, and traffic was already building. I didn't care. I needed to see my father, needed to see Lauren, needed to silence this gnawing whisper in the back of my mind that said something wasn't right. The autumn countryside blurred past my windshield farmland, giving way to clusters of pine trees. The sun hung low and orange on the horizon, casting long shadows across the two-lane highway. I gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, my knuckles white. When I finally pulled into Raymond's driveway, the first thing I noticed was the unfamiliar car. A black sedan parked beside Lauren's silver hatchback, sleek and expensive-looking. I killed the engine and sat there for a moment, studying the house. The porch light was on. Through the living room window, I could see movement shapes passing back and forth. Dad's old Buick sat in its usual spot near the garage dust on the hood, catching the glow of the porch light. He was home, but the house felt too still, too quiet, except for the murmur of voices drifting through the half-open living room window. I got out of the car slowly, my footsteps crunching on the gravel. The air smelled like pine needles and wood smoke. It should have felt like home. It didn't. As I approached the porch, I heard voices, low and urgent, filtering through the crack of an open window. I recognized Lauren's laugh, light and careless. Then a man's voice, deeper, unfamiliar. I stopped at the bottom of the porch steps, my heart hammering in my chest, and then I heard it. Clear as a bell. Lauren's voice, stripped of the worry she'd worn on the phone that morning. Once the old man is out of the way, we'll have access to everything. The world tilted. My breath caught in my throat. I stood frozen, one hand braced against the porch railing as those words echoed in my skull. The old man. My father. Or was she talking about me? Another voice, the man's, smooth and confident. Just a little longer, baby. Then we're set. I should have stormed inside, should have demanded answers. But something in me went cold and calculating instead. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, fingers trembling as I opened the voice recorder app. I crept closer to the window, keeping low, and held the phone up near the glass. Whatever came next, I would need proof. Lauren's voice drifted through the open window, bright and careless, like she was discussing weekend plans instead of my life. Tyler, we need to move faster. The weekly transfers are working, but it's not enough. We need the life insurance. I pressed myself against the siding phone, clutched in my hand, the record button already activated. My pulse roared in my ears, but I forced myself to stay still to listen. Through the gap in the curtains, I could see shapes moving in the living room. Lauren pacing, a man's silhouette on the couch. Raymond nowhere in sight. The man's voice came next, smooth and confident, in a way that made my skin crawl. I know, baby, but we have to be careful. If your father finds out before we get the beneficiary changed, the whole thing falls apart. Baby. He called my daughter baby. Lauren laughed, a sound I'd heard 1,000 times growing up. Now it felt like glass breaking. He won't find out. Mom already has access to his documents. She'll forge the signature this week. My knees nearly buckled. Evelyn, my wife, was in on this. A third voice crackled through a speakerphone, tinny but unmistakable. The voice I'd woken up to every morning for 32 years. I have the policy right here, sweetie. Just tell me when you need it." The world stopped. There was only Evelyn's voice, casual and complicit, discussing my death like it was a grocery list. "What about the old man, Tyler, again? Raymond is the only one who might notice something. Don't worry about Grandpa." Lauren's tone shifted colder now. "I've been checking on him. He's getting weaker. A fall down those steep stairs of his, or maybe pneumonia this winter, it'll look completely natural. No one questions when an old man in his late 70s dies. Raymond." They were talking about Raymond. My father, who'd taught me to ride a bike and shake a man's hand like you meant it. They were planning to kill him, and then it hit me. Another fall. This morning's phone call hadn't been real. Raymond hadn't fallen. This whole trip to Pinewood was about getting access to him, isolating him, setting the stage. My hand shook so violently I nearly dropped the phone. Rage burned through my chest, white hot and suffocating, but beneath it was something worse. Grief, the kind that hollows you out and leaves you empty. I wanted to kick down that door, but I didn't. Instead, I crouched lower, angled the phone closer to the window, and let the recording run. Emotion loses cases. Evidence wins them, Tyler spoke again. "Once we've got the insurance beneficiary changed, and the old man's out of the picture, we're looking at over $1 million plus whatever we've already moved offshore. That's enough to disappear if we need to. We won't need to." Lauren sounded so sure of herself. "Dad trusts me completely. He'll never suspect a thing." Dad trusts me completely. Those words cracked something inside me. She knew. She knew exactly what she was doing, knew how much I loved her, and she was weaponizing it. I backed away from the window, each step deliberate and silent. When I reached my car, I eased the door open, slipped inside, and closed it with the gentlest click. I didn't start the engine right away. Couldn't. My hands were shaking too badly. I sat there in the dark driveway, staring at my phone screen, at the little red recording icon still pulsing. 3 minutes and 42 seconds, less than 4 minutes to dismantle a lifetime of trust. Finally, I stopped the recording, saved it, backed it up to the cloud. Then I started the car and pulled out of the driveway, headlights off, until I was back on the main road. The drive home felt nothing like the drive there. Every mile stretched longer the highway, an endless black ribbon cutting through fields I couldn't see. My mind raced in circles, trying to make sense of what I'd heard. How long had they been planning this? The weekly transfers, $4,200 every Wednesday. I'd seen them for months and thought nothing of it. How much had they taken already? And the life insurance policy, when had Evelyn gotten access to that? By the time I pulled into our driveway in Maplewood Heights, it was past 9. The house sat dark and quiet, Evelyn's car nowhere in sight. Good. I needed time to think. Inside, the air smelled faintly of her lavender perfume, a scent that used to comfort me. Now it felt like evidence. I locked the door behind me, walked straight to my office, and closed the blinds. Then I sat at my desk, plugged in my headphones, and played the recording again. Lauren's voice, "We need the life insurance." Tyler's voice, "If your father finds out." Evelyn's voice, "I have the policy right here." I played it 3 times. 4, 5. Each time hoping I'd hear something different. But the words never changed. My daughter wanted me dead. My wife was helping her, and a man I'd never met was orchestrating the whole thing. When my phone buzzed with a text just before 11, I almost didn't look. Lauren. "Dad, Grandpa is doing fine. I'm staying with him tonight. Don't worry." My throat tightened. I stared at those words, at the casual lie wrapped in daughterly concern, and felt something shift inside me. The grief was still there, sharp and raw, but underneath it, something harder had taken root. I typed back carefully, each word a small act of performance. "Thank you, sweetheart. I'm glad you're there." I hit send and set the phone face down on the desk. Sweetheart. I'd called her that since the day she was born. I'd walked her to her first day of kindergarten, taught her to drive, paid for her college education. And this was how she repaid me. I opened my laptop and started a list. Lawyer, private investigator, forensic accountant. I needed a team, people I could trust, people who could help me untangle this mess without tipping off Lauren or Evelyn. I couldn't confront them, not yet, not until I knew the full scope of what they'd done. Because if tonight had taught me anything, it was this: I didn't know my own family at all. Sleep never came. By the time dawn broke over Maplewood Heights, I'd been awake for 36 hours straight, surviving on black coffee and adrenaline. James Anderson's office didn't open until 9, but I was parked outside by 7:30. His practice occupied the second floor of a brick building downtown. The stairs creaked under my weight as I climbed them at 8:55. When I knocked, he opened the door himself, a tall man in his early 60s with silver hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. "Mr. Lawson, come in." The office smelled like old leather and paper walls lined with law books and framed degrees. He gestured to the chair across from him and settled into his own. "Whatever you're about to tell me," he said quietly, "take your time." So I did. I played the recording, all 3 minutes and 42 seconds of it. James didn't interrupt. He sat perfectly still, his expression shifting from neutral to concerned to grave, as Lauren's voice filled the room, as Tyler's plans unfolded, as Evelyn's complicity became undeniable. When it finished, silence hung between us like smoke. "How much have they taken?" "I don't know yet. I've seen recurring transfers, $4,200 a week, but I don't know how long it's been going on." He made a note on his legal pad. "This is embezzlement, fraud, identity theft if they forge your signature, and the conversation about your father that's conspiracy to commit harm at minimum." He looked up. "You need a forensic accountant to trace the money and a private investigator to document their actions. Most importantly, you cannot let them know you're aware." "I know. Can you do that? Can you look your daughter in the eye and pretend everything is normal?" I thought about Lauren's text last night. "Don't worry, Dad. I can do whatever I have to." James nodded slowly. "I know someone, Sharon Reynolds, former detective, now a PI. She's good and discreet." He scribbled a number on a business card and slid it across the desk. "Call her today, and I'll put you in touch with Andrew Peterson for the financial forensics." By afternoon, I was sitting in Sharon Reynolds' office on the east side of town, a cramped space above a bail bonds shop. File cabinets lined the walls. A corkboard behind her desk held surveillance photos and timelines drawn in red marker. Sharon herself was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-40s, with sharp eyes and the kind of no-nonsense demeanor that came from years of dealing with liars. She poured 2 cups of coffee and pushed one toward me. James filled me in. "Let me hear the recording." I played it again. Her eyes narrowed at certain phrases. She rewound twice, listened again, made notes in shorthand I couldn't read. "This Tyler," she said when it finished. "You've never met him." "Never heard of him until last night. I'll find out who he is. Full background criminal history if he has one current address. If he's done this before, I'll know by end of week." She leaned back in her chair. "Your daughter and wife, they're smart. The offshore accounts, the insurance beneficiary change targeting your father's will, they've thought this through. Can you prove it? I can document it. Surveillance, financial records, witness statements if we get lucky. But Mr. Lawson, you need to understand something." She set her pen down and looked at me directly. If they're willing to talk about your father dying like it's a business transaction, they're capable of more than theft. The words landed like stones in my chest. You think they'd actually... I think you need to be careful. Very careful. And your father needs protection. How... I'll arrange surveillance on his house. And you need to visit him, check in regularly. But don't let Lauren know you're suspicious." "I'll do it." She extended her hand. I'll call you tomorrow with preliminary findings. In the meantime, don't change your routine. Don't confront them. And don't trust anyone who isn't in this room. That evening, I video called Andrew Peterson, the accountant. He appeared on screen, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses. "Mr. Anderson gave me the overview," Andrew said. "I'll need access to your business accounts, personal accounts, credit cards, anything with your name or your wife's name on it. I'll go back 24 months to start." "How long will that take?" "A week, maybe 2. But I'll have preliminary numbers in 72 hours. I gave him the login credentials. When the call ended, the house felt emptier than before. My phone rang twice that evening. First Lauren, her voice cheerful and false. "Hey, Dad, just checking in. How was your day?" "Fine, sweetheart. Busy at the store. How's Grandpa?" "Much better. I'm heading back to my place tonight." I pictured her at Raymond's house, and I hated that I could still hear my daughter as the little girl she used to be. "Glad to hear it. Love you." "Love you too, Dad." The second call came an hour later. Evelyn sounding distant, distracted. To Charles. "I'm extending my trip a few more days. Susan wants to drive up to Vermont." Susan, her college roommate. Or maybe that was a lie, too. "That's fine, drive safe." "I will, miss you." The line went dead before I could decide whether to say it back. My phone vibrated. Raymond's number. I answered on the first ring. "Dad, everything okay?" His voice came through thin and uncertain. "Charles, I need to tell you something about Lauren. Yesterday she asked me about my will. Wanted to know who the beneficiaries are. Said she was helping me get my affairs in order." He paused. "It didn't sit right with me, son." I closed my eyes. "Dad, don't change anything. Not your will, not your accounts, nothing. I'm coming to see you this weekend. We need to talk." "Is something wrong?" "Everything. Everything is wrong. We'll talk in person. Just promise me you won't sign anything until we do." "I promise." After we hung up, I sat in that dark kitchen and understood the full scope of it. They weren't just stealing from me. They were circling Raymond like vultures ready to forge his signature the way they'd planned to forge mine. Thursday evening and the October chill had deepened into something sharper. I left Lawson's Furniture Gallery just after 7, locking the front door, while Marcus finished loading a dresser into a customer's truck. Main Street was quiet shop windows glowing warm against the encroaching dark. I climbed into my sedan and pulled out onto the road home. The drive was familiar enough that my mind wandered. I thought about Sharon's latest update. She'd identified Tyler Brooks started building his profile. Thought about Andrew Peterson's preliminary numbers, transactions that didn't add up. Thought about the recording on my phone and wondered how many more secrets were waiting to surface. Riverside Drive curved along the eastern edge of Maplewood Heights, where old oaks leaned over the asphalt, and the park stretched dark to my right. This stretch of road had been here since before I was born. I'd driven it 1,000 times. The steering wheel locked. One moment I was easing into the curve. The next, my hands were wrenching at a wheel that refused to turn, the car barreling straight toward the guardrail. Time fractured. My foot slammed the brake, but momentum carried me forward. Instinct took over. I yanked the wheel harder, throwing my whole body into it. Something in the mechanism gave not much, but a fraction that let me angle away from the rail. The car skidded sideways, tires shrieking. Then I was off the road, entirely gravel, spitting under the wheels, and the world tilted as I plowed into the bushes. Branches exploded across the windshield. The seatbelt locked tight across my chest. My head snapped forward, then back. The car shuddered to a stop, half buried in thorns and splintered wood. Silence. Then the hiss of the radiator. My own ragged breathing. I sat there, hands still gripping the wheel knuckles, bone white. Something wet trickled down my temple, blood probably. But I was alive. A neighbor appeared at my window. Her expression twisted with concern. "Oh my God, are you okay? I saw you go off the road." "I'm fine, I think." The steering it locked. "Bow, don't move, I'm calling 911. The ambulance arrived within 10 minutes, followed by a police cruiser. EMTs checked me over while an officer took my statement. "Any mechanical issues with the vehicle recently?" "No, nothing. It just locked up on the curve. Happens sometimes with older cars. Steering linkage can fail." He glanced at my sedan. "You're lucky it wasn't worse." "Lucky." I nodded, but the word felt wrong. I called Mike's auto repair and asked for a tow. I rode home with the neighbor, thanked her, and spent the rest of the evening sitting in my dark kitchen, replaying the moment when the wheel refused to turn. Mike called at 8 the next morning. I was already awake, 3 cups of coffee deep. "Charles, you need to come down here." His voice had an edge I didn't like. I was at the garage 20 minutes later. Mike stood by my car on the lift, his face grim. "What is it?" He gestured me over, pointed to the steering column. "See these bolts here? They've been loosened. Not all the way. Whoever did this was smart. Loosened them just enough that they'd hold for a while, then give out under stress." My stomach turned to lead. "What are you saying?" Mike looked me in the eye. "I'm saying someone tampered with your car. This wasn't mechanical failure. This was deliberate." The garage floor seemed to tilt. "You're sure? Look at the tool marks." He pointed to faint scratches around the bolt heads. "Fresh. Done recently, maybe a day or two ago." A day or two ago. Then I remembered. Wednesday night. Lauren had come over for dinner, said she missed me. We'd ordered pizza, watched a movie. She'd stayed late, asked if she could crash in her old room. I'd said yes, thrilled that she wanted to be there. My car had been parked on the street. All night. "I need to make a call." I stepped outside, dialed Sharon Reynolds. "Sharon, it's Charles. My car was sabotaged. Someone loosened the steering bolts. I crashed last night." A pause. Then sharp. "Are you hurt?" "Bruises. Nothing serious." "But Sharon," I think it was Lauren. "Where are you?" Mike's auto repair, downtown." "Stay there, I'm on my way." She arrived in 15 minutes, took photos of the bolts, the tool marks, interviewed Mike. When she finished, she pulled me aside. "When did Lauren last have access to your car?" "Wednesday night. She stayed over. The car was parked on the street. And no one else could have done this." I thought about Evelyn, about how she had keys to my car, access to everything. "Evelyn's been away. Lauren's the only one who's been around." Sharon nodded slowly. "Charles, this changes things. This isn't just theft anymore. This is attempted murder." The words hung in the cold morning air. Attempted murder. My daughter had tried to kill me. "What do I do?" "You keep acting normal. You don't let her know you suspect anything. And you don't go anywhere alone." She met my eyes. "They've escalated, which means they're getting desperate. Either way, you're in danger." I drove home in a rental car, Sharon following behind. I spent the afternoon installing security cameras, front door, back door, driveway, garage. Changed every password, double-checked the locks. By the time darkness fell, I was exhausted, but sleep wouldn't come. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Just before midnight, headlights swept across the bedroom wall. A car door slammed. I heard the front door open, Evelyn's footsteps in the hallway. She slipped into the bedroom quietly, thinking I was asleep. The mattress dipped as she climbed in beside me. I kept my eyes closed, my breathing slow and even. And I wondered, did she know? Did she know Lauren had tried to kill me? Had she told Lauren I'd be driving home late on Thursday? Or worse, had she been the one to loosen the bolts herself? I lay there inches from the woman I'd loved for 3 decades and realized I had no idea who she was anymore. Saturday morning arrived with weak sunlight filtering through the blinds. I'd slept maybe 3 hours, the rest spent watching security camera feeds on my phone. Evelyn was still asleep when I locked myself in the office and booted up my laptop. Andrew Peterson's video call was scheduled for 9. I had 2 cups of coffee waiting, both already lukewarm. My hands were steadier than they'd been in days. A kind of cold clarity had settled in. The screen flickered to life at 9 sharp. Andrew appeared in his cramped office, fluorescent lights harsh against his pale face. "Charles, how are you holding up?" I touched the bruise on my shoulder. "I'm alive. Let's talk about the money." He nodded, all business. "I've completed the analysis of your accounts for the past 24 months. What I found is extensive and deliberate." He shared his screen, and a spreadsheet appeared, rows upon rows of transactions highlighted in red. "Let's start with the weekly transfers." I leaned closer. 104 transactions over 2 years. Every Wednesday at 3 p.m. $4,200 each time. He scrolled down. "Total withdrawn from your business account, $436,800. The number sat heavy in my chest. Nearly $500,000. Gone. So where did it go? An intermediate account called Lawson Family Trust. The trust doesn't legally exist, it's a shell. From there, the money was wired to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands within 48 hours. I wrote it down. My name used to steal from me." Andrew adjusted his glasses. "That's not all. In May of this year, a home equity loan was approved against your property for $125,000. My stomach turned. I never applied for a home equity loan. I know. The application was submitted online using your social security number and forged documents. Where did that money go? Deposited into an account under Lauren Lawson's name. Withdrawn in increments over the following 2 weeks. Cash and transfers. Untraceable after that." I closed my eyes. $125,000. My daughter's account. "There's more," Andrew said quietly. I opened my eyes. In August, $21,800 was transferred from your savings to an entity called Brooks Business Ventures, LLC. The transfer was authorized with your login credentials. "Evelyn." "Possibly. Brooks Business Ventures is a shell company registered to Tyler Brooks. Just a bank account that received your money and funneled it elsewhere." I wrote it down, anger bleeding into the pen strokes. "What's the total?" Andrew pulled up another document. "Combined theft, $583,600. Over $500,000. How do you steal that much without someone noticing slowly, patiently? Week after week with someone on the inside helping you. There's one more thing," Andrew's voice dropped. "Your life insurance policy." I went very still. The beneficiary was changed on September 15th. Previously, Evelyn was listed as primary beneficiary. As of September, Lauren is now the sole beneficiary of a $1.1 million policy. Something cracked inside me. Not loudly. Just a quiet fracture. The change was processed online. Required your signature on a digital consent form, same forgery patterns as the loan documents. "Charles, if something were to happen to you, Lauren would receive over $1 million. I stared at the screen. The weekly theft, the forged loans, the fake investments, and finally, the life insurance. She'd been positioning herself to profit from my death. Thursday night, when the steering wheel locked, that hadn't been an accident. That had been an attempt. Andrew's voice cut through. "Are you still there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "Shikriam. This is enough for law enforcement. Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, forgery. And combined with the car tampering, you have grounds for attempted murder charges." "Not yet. Charles. Not yet. I need to know everyone involved. I need the full picture." I met his eyes through the screen. "Can you have a complete forensic report ready in a week?" "Yes. But if they try again, I'll be careful. Sharon has people watching the house." The call ended. I sat in the silent office staring at my notes. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. A soft knock. "Shani." Evelyn's voice. "Breakfast is ready." I saved the files, closed the laptop, unlocked the door. She stood in the hallway wearing a bathrobe and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You've been in there all morning. Everything okay?" "Just catching up on work." She touched my arm. "I'm so glad you're all right. When you called and said you'd crashed, I was terrified. Terrified. I wanted to ask, were you terrified I'd survived? Instead, I smiled. "I'm fine, just shaken up." Downstairs, she'd made eggs and toast. We ate in near silence. She asked about the car. I told her it was totaled, that I'd rented something. She nodded, said something about insurance covering it. I watched her and tried to remember when she'd stopped being the woman I married. Sunday afternoon, Lauren showed up. I was in the living room when her car pulled into the driveway. Evelyn let her in, and Lauren came straight to me. "Dad, oh my God, I heard about the accident. Are you okay?" She hugged me before I could answer. I hugged her back, felt her heartbeat against my chest. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just a little banged up." She pulled back, studied my face. "What happened?" "Steering failed on Riverside Curve. Lost control." "That's terrifying. You could have been killed." "Yes, I could have. And you knew that when you loosened those bolts." "I got lucky," I said. She sat beside me, her hand on mine. "Dad, you have to be more careful. I worry about you." I looked into her eyes and saw nothing but calculated performance. If I hadn't heard the recording, hadn't seen the financial evidence, I might have believed her. She stayed for an hour chatting about work, about plans for the holidays. Normal daughter things. When she finally left, she hugged me at the door. "I'm so glad you're safe, Dad. I don't know what I'd do without you." I held her close and felt the lie between us like a blade. "I love you, sweetheart." "Well, love you too." I watched her drive away. Then I went back inside, locked the door, and stood in the quiet entryway. I thought about Lauren's words, "I don't know what I'd do without you." But she did know. She'd planned for it. My death had a price tag, $1,100,000, plus whatever remained of the money she'd already stolen. I would give them enough rope. Let them think they'd gotten away with it. And when they made it, I'd be ready. But first I had to survive whatever came next. Monday afternoons at Lawson's Furniture Gallery usually brought a steady trickle of customers. I'd returned to work that morning with bruises still blooming across my shoulder, telling Marcus and Jennifer the car accident had been a fluke. Routine felt safer than sitting at home, watching Evelyn move through the house like a stranger. Around 2 o'clock, a woman in her 60s approached me near the display sofas. "Excuse me, do you have any more of those ceramic table lamps, the ones with the cream shade?" I smiled. "We keep some overflow inventory up in the mezzanine. Let me check for you." The mezzanine was accessible by a metal ladder bolted to the wall near the back. I'd climbed it 2 or 3 times a day for years. 10 rungs up, 10 rungs down. Simple as breathing. I gripped the sides and started climbing. 7 rungs up, I shifted my weight to reach for the 8th. The step collapsed under me. 1 second, it was solid. The next, it wasn't. And I was falling backward into open air, my hands scrabbling for rails that were suddenly too far away. Then something caught me. Arms solid and strong, breaking my fall before my head could crack against the hardwood. I crashed into Marcus instead, both of us staggering. We went down together in a controlled collapse. Pain lanced through my ribs where his elbow caught me, but it was nothing compared to what would have happened if he hadn't been there. "Boss Charles, you okay?" Marcus's voice was breathless. I rolled off him, sat up, my hands shaking. "Yeah, I'm okay." Jennifer was running over her face, pale. The customer stood frozen, one hand over her mouth. "What happened?" I looked up at the ladder. The 7th rung dangled loose, one end still attached, the other hanging at a sickening angle. "That rung just gave out," I said. "Just snapped." "That's a 10-foot fall," Jennifer said. "Charles, you could have broken your neck." Marcus stepped closer to the ladder. "That's not right. That ladder's steel. We had it inspected 6 months ago." He glanced at me. I'm going to take a look. He fetched a stepladder and climbed up to examine the broken rung. I watched him run his fingers over the metal, his frown deepening. Charles, come look at this. I climbed up and joined him. Marcus pointed to the bolt holes. See these, the bolts have been loosened. There are fresh tool marks on the heads. Someone used a wrench to back these off just enough that they'd hold for a bit, then fail under weight. The floor seemed to tilt. Not again. Not twice in 1 week. You're sure? Charles I worked construction for 15 years. I know what tampering looks like. He met my eyes. Someone did this on purpose. I climbed down slowly. When was the last time anyone else was up there? Marcus thought for a moment. Yesterday. Sunday. Your daughter came by. Said she wanted to check out the new inventory. I told her the lamps were up in the mezzanine and she went up to look. Lauren. Sunday afternoon, less than 24 hours ago. How long was she up there? 15 minutes, maybe. When she came down, she said she didn't see anything she liked. 15 minutes. Long enough to loosen bolts on a ladder her father climbed multiple times a day. I pulled out my phone, dialed Sharon Reynolds. Charles, what's wrong? It happened again. At the store. The ladder. Someone sabotaged it. I almost fell. Are you hurt? No. Marcus caught me. But Sharon, it was Lauren. She was here yesterday. Don't touch anything. I'm on my way. She arrived 30 minutes later with a camera and evidence kit. Marcus gave his statement, showed her the tool marks. She took photos from every angle. When Sharon finished, she pulled me aside. This matches the pattern from your car. But this time there's a witness. She nodded toward Marcus. And this time she made a mistake. What kind of mistake? Sharon pulled out her phone, showed me a photo of a receipt. Riverside Hardware, dated last Tuesday. A 12-piece wrench set. $63 and change. At the bottom, a signature, Lauren Lawson. I've been tracking her movements since the car incident, Sharon said. She bought this wrench set a week ago. The tool marks on your ladder match the size of wrenches in this set. I stared at the receipt at my daughter's looping signature. She'd bought the tools. Used them to sabotage my car. Used them again to sabotage the ladder. How many more times? Sharon's eyes were steady. As many as it takes until she succeeds. Or until we stop her. I want her arrested. But not yet. We're building a case for attempted murder, which requires proving intent and pattern. 2 incidents give us pattern. But if we move now, her lawyer will argue coincidence. We need more. She's tried to kill me twice. I know. And we're going to catch her. But we need to be smart. Sharon's voice was firm. We document everything. We keep you safe, and we wait for her to make a move we can tie directly to her, with no room for doubt. By evening, Marcus walked me to my rental car, checking the wheel wells and undercarriage with a flashlight, before letting me get in. You call if you need anything, he said. I will, thank you, for catching me. I drove home slowly, checking my mirrors constantly. Inside the house was dark. Evelyn had left a note out with Diane. Back late, I stood in the kitchen reading that note 3 times and wondered if she was really with her sister, or if she was somewhere with Lauren planning the next attempt. My phone buzzed. A text from Sharon. Just the receipt photo again, zoomed in on Lauren's signature. I stared at it until my vision blurred. My daughter's handwriting. My daughter's choice. How many more times would she try before she got it right? Tuesday morning found me sitting across from Sharon Reynolds in her cramped office, staring at a folder thick enough to be a phone book. Outside, Maplewood Heights was waking up to another gray November day, but none of that mattered, because Sharon had found him. Tyler James Brooks, she said, flipping the folder open. A driver's license photo stared up at me, handsome in that practiced way. Dark hair, styled just so, the kind of smile that probably charmed everyone. 35 years old, born in Erie, Pennsylvania. And he's exactly what we thought he was. I leaned forward, my ribs still aching. Tell me. She slid a document across the desk. Arrested in Philadelphia in 2018 for wire fraud and identity theft. Scammed 3 elderly women out of their retirement savings by posing as a financial advisor. Got 2 years served, 14 months, released on good behavior in 2019. A con man, of course. He moved here after that. Summer of 2020. Clean record since then officially. Started dating your daughter about 8 months ago based on Lauren's social media. 8 months. Long enough to worm his way in, gain her trust, twist her thinking. Sharon pulled out another set of documents. But here's where it gets interesting. Tyler Brooks isn't just a con artist. He's a family man. She laid out photographs. A woman in scrubs, auburn hair, pulled back in a ponytail, smiling as she walked into Maplewood General Hospital. A little boy with a backpack holding that same woman's hand outside an elementary school. Melissa Brooks, née Carter. 33 years old, works as a medical records clerk at the hospital. Married Tyler in 2017, stayed with him through the trial. By all accounts, she thinks they're happily married. The boy had Tyler's dark hair, his mother's smile. He looked small for 6. That's Oliver. First grade at Riverside Elementary. Good kid according to his teacher. I stared at the photos. Lauren doesn't know about them. We don't think so. Tyler's been running 2 lives simultaneously. Tells Melissa he's working long hours at the gym. Tells Lauren he's separated from his wife, that the divorce is pending. Classic con artist pattern. Sharon pulled out her phone, scrolled, then turned it toward me. Text messages, screenshots from a recovered device. We got access to Tyler's second phone. These are from last week. I read, my jaw tightening. Tyler, once the old man is gone, we split 60-40. You get the insurance, I handle the offshore. Lauren, what if he doesn't die? Tyler, he will. Just need to be patient. The car didn't work, but the ladder almost did. Next time, we'll be smarter. Lauren, I'm scared. Tyler, don't be. I love you. We're doing this together, baby. By Christmas, we'll be on a beach somewhere, and none of this will matter. My hands were shaking. Not with fear. With rage so pure it felt cold. He's promising her a life, Sharon said quietly. Marriage, freedom, escape. And she's desperate enough to believe him. She's trying to kill me for him. Yes. But Charles, she's a victim too. Not of the murder attempts, those are on her. But Tyler's been manipulating her since day one. Everything he's told her is a lie. He has no intention of leaving Melissa. He just needs Lauren to get him the money. I thought about Lauren's face when she'd hugged me Sunday. Had any of that been real? What's his cut? I asked. Sharon flipped to another page. Based on the offshore account structure, Tyler's set up to receive 40% of everything. Plus, if Lauren gets the life insurance payout, he's positioned to access that too, through the offshore accounts he controls. $1 million. My life reduced to a transaction. Does Melissa know? About Lauren, Melissa's bank accounts show normal activity, nothing suspicious. She's working 40 hours a week, paying bills, buying groceries for her kid. She has no idea her husband is planning murder with his mistress. I looked at Oliver's photo again. 6 years old. That little boy was innocent in all this. What about Evelyn Mo? Sharon's expression shifted. That's murkier. She definitely knew about the financial fraud, the forged signatures, the weekly transfers. But the murder attempts, we've been monitoring her communications. Nothing suggests she knew Lauren and Tyler were trying to kill you. My theory is they kept her in the dark about that part. She's still complicit. Absolutely. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy. She'll face charges. But attempted murder, I don't think she's part of that. Small comfort. My wife had stolen from me, lied to me, forged my signature. Sharon closed the folder. We're ready to move soon. James Anderson is preparing the legal filings. Detective Palmer at Maplewood PD is coordinating with us. The memorial dinner on the 18th, that's our target. We let them come to you surrounded by family, and we take them down publicly. 6 more days. 6 more days. Can you hold out? I thought about the steering wheel locking, the ladder collapsing. 6 more days of pretending, 6 more days of smiling at my daughter while knowing she wanted me dead. I can do it. Good. Because Charles, if they're planning something for the memorial dinner, they might try one more time before then. Be vigilant. Wednesday evening, I was closing up the store when my phone buzzed. An alert from the security app Sharon had installed. Motion-detected kitchen, rear door. My heart stopped. I pulled up the camera feed with shaking hands. The kitchen was dim, just the under-cabinet lights on. And there, moving through the frame, was Lauren. She was alone. No Tyler, no Evelyn. Just my daughter letting herself in through the back door with a key she'd had since high school. In her hand, a small bottle. Dark glass label I couldn't read from the camera angle. I hit speed dial for Sharon. Charles, ooh. She's in my house. My voice came out strangled. Lauren, she's in the kitchen. She has a bottle, I don't know what's in it, but don't go in there. Charles, do you hear me? Stay where you are. We're on our way. I was already running for my car. Whatever Lauren was doing in my kitchen with that bottle, whatever she was planning to poison or tamper with or destroy it, was happening right now. And I couldn't just stand by and let it happen. Not this time. The 15-minute drive home felt like seconds. I took corners too fast. Ran a yellow light, my hands locked on the wheel, while Sharon's voice crackled through the car speakers. Charles, listen to me. Do not engage. If she's in your house, she's dangerous. Wait for us. She's my daughter. She's tried to kill you 3 times. Whatever she's doing in there, it's not a social visit. I knew that. Knew it in my bones, in the ache of my bruised ribs. But she was still Lauren. Still the little girl who'd cried when her goldfish died, who'd made me Father's Day cards with crayon and glitter. I pulled into the driveway and killed the engine. I'm going in. Charles. I hung up and got out of the car. The back door was unlocked. I stepped into the mudroom, heard movement in the kitchen, forced myself to slow down. If I stormed in accusing her, she'd deny everything. I'd lose the element of surprise. I took a breath and walked into the kitchen like I'd just come home from work. Lauren jumped when she saw me, her hand flying to her chest. She was standing at the counter, my leather messenger bag slung over her shoulder. Dad, you scared me. I didn't hear you come in. I looked at the counter. My bottle of Macallan, the one I saved for special occasions, sat there with the cap slightly loose. A glass beside it, clean and unused. What are you doing here, sweetheart? She glanced at the bottle, then back at me. I came to check on you. After the accident and the thing at the store with the ladder, I've been worried. I thought maybe we could have a drink talk. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. But you weren't home, so I was just going to leave you a note. That was thoughtful. She moved toward me, gave me a quick hug. I hugged her back, feeling the weight of her bag, wondering what she'd hidden in there. Pills, a vial, whatever she'd used to poison the whiskey. I should get going. I have an early meeting tomorrow. She was already heading for the door, moving fast. Love you, Dad. Love you too. I watched through the window as she drove away. Then I turned back to the counter and looked at the Macallan bottle. I'd bought it 5 years ago, brought it out maybe twice a year. Lauren knew that. Knew I'd bring it to Raymond's house for the memorial. Knew I'd pour a glass for each of us, raise a toast to Mildred, and drink. I pulled out my phone and took photos of the bottle from every angle. Didn't touch it. Just documented it. Sharon arrived 20 minutes later with a man carrying cases that looked like something from a crime lab. She went straight to the bottle, pulled on latex gloves, and carefully lifted it by the base. Has anyone else touched this since you got home? No. Just Lauren before I arrived. The man, Rick, a forensic tech, pulled out a testing kit and pipetted a small sample into a vial. We stood in tense silence while he ran the test. Positive for benzodiazepines, Rick said finally. High concentration. This isn't a therapeutic dose. This is enough to cause severe respiratory depression, especially when mixed with alcohol. Sharon looked at me. If you'd drunk this, Charles, you wouldn't have woken up. The kitchen felt suddenly cold. Normal life things had happened here. And now my daughter had turned it into a crime scene. Can you test for fingerprints? Already done. Sharon pulled out her phone. But Charles, we have enough. 3 attempts, documented evidence, witnesses. We can arrest her tonight. No, she looked at me like I'd lost my mind. She just tried to poison you, and I want her to think it worked, or almost worked. I pointed to the bottle. Can you replace this with something safe, same bottle, same color, but no drugs? Sharon's eyes narrowed. You want to bait her. The memorial dinner is Sunday. She'll be there. Tyler will be there. Evelyn will be there. I'll bring this bottle, the safe one, and I'll drink from it. And when I react, when I start feeling sick, we'll see what they do. Whether they try to finish the job or whether they panic. That's dangerous. Everything's dangerous. But this way we catch them red-handed, in front of witnesses, at a family gathering where they can't claim it was an accident. Rick spoke up. I can make a substitute. Same bottle-aged whiskey, no sedatives. Sharon was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. We do this. We do it my way. You wear a wire. Detective Palmer and I will be in position outside. EMTs on standby. And the moment things go sideways, we pull you out. Deal. By Thursday morning, the plan was in place. Rick had prepared the substitute bottle. Sharon had coordinated with Detective Palmer, who'd assigned 2 undercover officers to attend the memorial as family friends. James Anderson had drafted the arrest warrants. I went to work, sold furniture, smiled at customers, pretended Thursday was just another day. Friday passed the same way, slow, methodical, every hour bringing me closer to Sunday. Friday night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered the house, eventually finding myself in Mildred's old sewing room. Mom's things were still here. Her sewing machine covered with a sheet, boxes of fabric, and on the wall photos in mismatched frames. Mildred on her wedding day. Mildred holding baby Lauren. Christmas mornings, birthday parties, ordinary moments made precious by time. I stood there in the dark, looking at those photos, and tried to imagine what my mother would think of what I was about to do. Trap my own daughter. Watch her get arrested at a memorial dinner held in Mom's honor. My phone buzzed. A text. Lauren can't wait to see you tomorrow, Dad. Let's make it a day Mom would be proud of. I stared at those words until they blurred. A day Mom would be proud of. Tomorrow I'd walk into my father's house carrying whiskey that was supposed to be poisoned. I'd drink from it while my daughter watched, waiting for me to die. And when her plan failed again, I'd watch the police take her away in handcuffs. I didn't reply. What was there to say? I turned off the light and went back to my bedroom. Lay down in the bed I'd shared with Evelyn for 32 years and stared at the ceiling until dawn. Tomorrow was the memorial. Tomorrow was the trap. Tomorrow, one way or another, this would end. But tonight all I could do was lie in the dark and mourn the family I'd thought I had. Dawn broke gray and cold over Maplewood Heights, the kind of November morning that smelled like dead leaves and coming snow. I drove to Pinewood with the swapped whiskey bottle in a gift bag on the passenger seat, the wire taped to my chest, itching beneath my shirt, and a hollowness in my gut that had nothing to do with fear. Sharon's voice crackled through the earpiece hidden under my collar. We're in position. 2 blocks south in an unmarked van. Palmer and Rodriguez are parked at the corner. You're covered. Copy that. Charles. Her voice softened. You don't have to do this. I need them at the dinner, in front of everyone. I need them to see what Lauren and Evelyn did. I pulled into Raymond's driveway at 8:30. Lauren's car was already there. So was the black sedan I now knew belonged to Tyler Brooks. The house looked the same as it always had, white clapboard green shutters, the porch where I'd learned to tie my shoes. Normal. Except nothing about this morning was normal. Raymond opened the door before I could knock. "Charles, come in, son. Lauren and her friend are already here." "Oh, morning, Dad." I hugged him carefully. "How are you holding up? Missing your mother something fierce today." "Me too." Inside, Lauren and Tyler sat in the living room on the couch, where 3 weeks ago I'd stood outside and heard them plot my death. Lauren stood when she saw me, her smile bright and false. "Dad, you made it." I hugged her, felt her arms around me, and wondered how many times I'd held my daughter while she was thinking about killing me. "Wouldn't miss it. Hi, Tyler." Tyler rose, extended his hand. He had no idea we knew everything. No idea today was the day his life fell apart. "Mr. Lawson, good to see you again." I set the gift bag on the coffee table. "I brought something. Thought we could toast Mom's memory." I pulled out the whiskey bottle, the safe one. Raymond fetched 4 glasses from the kitchen, and I poured 2 fingers in each. "To Mildred," I said, raising my glass. "The strongest woman I ever knew. She taught me that family is everything and that the truth always comes out." Raymond raised his glass, tears already in his eyes. "To Mildred." Lauren raised hers, her smile wavering. "To Grandma." I drank. A good swallow, the whiskey burning clean down my throat. Raymond drank too. I watched Lauren and Tyler carefully. Lauren brought the glass to her lips, barely touched it, then set it down. Tyler did the same, a pantomime of drinking without actually consuming anything. They knew it was poisoned. They were waiting for me to die. 10 minutes passed. We talked about nothing, the weather, Raymond's health, Lauren's work. Normal conversation. Except I was watching Lauren and Tyler watch me, waiting for symptoms they expected. Finally, I let my eyes unfocus slightly. Brought my hand to my temple. "I don't feel so good." Raymond looked over, concerned. "Charles, you all right? Just dizzy." I stood up, swayed deliberately, then sat back down hard. Something's wrong. Lauren was on her feet immediately. "Dad, what's happening?" I let my eyes close, my head loll back. "Can't breathe right." "Should I call 911? Raymond's voice rose with panic. Tyler spoke up, too calm. "Let's see if he needs it. Might just be a panic attack. Buying time. Waiting to see if the poison would finish the job. Dad, stay with us. Tyler, call an ambulance." But he was moving away from his phone, not toward it. "Give him a minute." The front door burst open. Sharon and 2 men in EMT uniforms rushed in. "We got a call about a medical emergency." Everyone stepped back. Raymond looked confused. "I didn't call." Sharon was already at my side. She leaned close, whispered, "Now." I opened my eyes, sat up, looked directly at Lauren. "I didn't drink enough." Her face went white. "Dad." "What?" I said I didn't drink enough. I stood up, perfectly steady. "I know what you did, Lauren. I know about the poison." Tyler was backing toward the door, but Detective Palmer stepped inside, badge out. "Tyler Brooks, don't move." Raymond looked from me to Lauren to Tyler, confusion cycling to horror. "Charles, what's going on?" I kept my eyes on Lauren. "For the past 3 weeks, someone's been trying to kill me. My car was sabotaged. The ladder at my store was tampered with. And last Wednesday, someone put enough sedatives in this whiskey to cause respiratory failure." I picked up the bottle. "This isn't that whiskey. We replaced it. But the bottle you poisoned, we have it. We tested it. We have your fingerprints on it." Lauren was shaking her head, backing toward Tyler. "No, that's not—" "I understand perfectly. You and Tyler have been stealing from me for 2 years, over $500,000. You forged loan documents, changed my life insurance beneficiary to yourself, and when that wasn't enough, you started trying to kill me for the payout." Sharon pulled out her phone, held up a photo. "We have the wrench receipt, Lauren. We have security footage. We have text messages from Tyler's burner phone planning your father's death. Tyler tried to run. Palmer and the other officer grabbed him, slammed him against the wall. You're under arrest. Wait, I held up my hand. Not yet. Everyone froze. I want them at the memorial dinner tonight. I want them to face the whole family. They owe Mom that much. Charles, I want everyone to know. I want Patricia and David and Emma to see what they've done. Detective Palmer exchanged a glance with Sharon. We'll need to keep them under supervision. Fine. But they'll be there. I turned to Lauren. And there's one more thing you should know about Tyler. She was crying now. What? Sharon held up another photo. A woman with auburn hair holding hands with a little boy. Melissa Brooks, Tyler's wife of 8 years. And that's Oliver, their 6-year-old son. Tyler was never separated. He was never getting divorced. He's been lying to you from the beginning. Lauren's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the couch, staring at the photo. No, that's not, he said. He lied. My voice was flat. He used you to get my money, and when you were no longer useful, he would have disappeared. They took Lauren and Tyler outside, hands zip-tied, loading them into an unmarked car. Sharon stayed behind, helping Raymond into a chair, explaining what had just happened. Raymond put his hand on my shoulder, his voice breaking. Son, I'm so sorry. I looked at him, at the man who'd raised me to be honest and strong. Tonight, in front of 17 people, I'd have to relive this nightmare one more time. But it would be the last time. Tonight, justice would begin. Before we walk into that room where 17 people are waiting, tell me this. What do you think Charles will do first? Will he present evidence calmly, or will emotions take over? Share your prediction in the comments. I want to know you're here with me. And a quick reminder, this narrative contains some creative elements added for educational impact. If you'd prefer not to continue, you can stop the video now. Otherwise, let's see how this unfolds. The house was full by the time the sun set behind the Pinewood Hills. Cars lined Oak Ridge Drive, the way they had the day we buried my mother 3 years ago. Sedans and SUVs parked bumper-to-bumper, headlights cutting through the November dusk. I stood in the doorway of my father's house and watched them come. Patricia, first my older sister. Her face tight with worry as she gripped her husband Michael's arm. David next, my younger brother, his jaw set in that stubborn way he'd had since childhood. Rebecca trailing behind with their daughter Emma. Stephen and Diane Carter, old family friends who'd known my mother since college. George Whitman, my father's fishing buddy, leaning heavy on his cane. Margaret Foster, who'd taught Sunday school with Mom for 20 years. And then there were the 3 I'd invited who didn't belong. Detective Palmer, introduced as Tom, a distant cousin from Ohio. Sharon Reynolds playing Sarah, an old friend of mine from college. Officer Jenkins, Dan, a neighbor from Maplewood Heights who'd supposedly heard about the dinner and asked to pay respects. 17 people total, 17 witnesses. Inside the dining room glowed warm with lamplight. My father had set the long oak table with my mother's best china, the set, with the delicate blue flowers she'd only used for holidays. Framed photos of Mildred lined the mantel her wedding day, holding me as a newborn, laughing at some long-forgotten joke. The scent of roast chicken and rosemary filled the air, though I doubted anyone would have much appetite tonight. Lauren sat near the far end of the table, Tyler beside her. She looked pale, her hands folded in her lap, fingers twisting the napkin over and over. Tyler's face was calm, almost bored, but I caught the way his eyes tracked Sharon's movements across the room. He knew something was wrong. He just didn't know how wrong. Evelyn sat across from them, her face carefully blank. She'd barely spoken to me since this morning, hadn't asked why I'd recovered so quickly from my episode, hadn't questioned why I'd insisted on this dinner. She knew. I was certain now. She'd known about the money, maybe even about the forged signatures. The only question left was whether she'd known about the 3 attempts on my life. By 7, everyone had arrived. Raymond stood at the head of the table, his hands gripping the back of his chair. He looked older tonight, the lines in his face deeper, his shoulders bowed. When he spoke, his voice cracked. Thank you all for coming," he said. 3 years ago, we lost Mildred. She was the heart of this family, and not a day goes by that I don't miss her." He paused, swallowed hard. "Tonight we gather to remember her, and to face some hard truths as a family." He sat down heavily and looked at me. The room fell silent. I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Every eye turned toward me. Patricia looked worried. David looked confused. Emma's young face was pale with apprehension. Margaret dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. And Lauren stared at her plate, her jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Mom believed in honesty. I began, my voice steady. She used to say that a family built on lies would crumble from within. She taught us to value integrity above all else. I paused. Let the words settle. So tonight, in her memory, I'm going to tell you the truth about what's been happening in this family for the past 2 years. Forks paused midair. Napkins froze in hands. The silence stretched fragile as glass. 24 months ago, I continued, someone began stealing from me. Every week, $4,200 was transferred out of my business account. 104 transactions total, over $500,000. I let the number hang in the air. Patricia gasped. David's fork clattered onto his plate. $550,000 to be exact. Charles, Evelyn started, but I held up my hand. The money was moved through a fake trust account, then offshore to the Cayman Islands. The transfers were authorized with forged signatures. My signatures. I pulled a folder from beneath my chair and set it on the table. I have the bank records, the forensic analysis, the evidence trail. Raymond's face had gone gray. George Whitman's mouth hung open. Margaret's tissue was pressed to her lips. I turned and looked directly at my daughter. "Lauren," I said quietly, "you stole that money. You and Tyler Brooks, the man sitting next to you." Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with panic. "You opened the fake account. You forged my signatures. You transferred my money week after week for 2 years. Her voice broke. "I can explain. Can you explain the 3 attempts on my life?" My voice was louder, now harder. The car accident 2 weeks ago when someone loosened the bolts on my steering column, the ladder at my store. Sabotaged, so I'd fall and break my neck, the bottle of whiskey. I gestured toward the kitchen, the one you poisoned last Wednesday night with enough benzodiazepines to kill me. The room exploded. Patricia screamed. David lunged to his feet. Emma burst into tears. Evelyn's face went white as snow. Raymond made a sound like a wounded animal, and Lauren stood her chair flying backward, her face twisted in fury and desperation. "You don't understand," she shouted, her voice raw. "Tyler loves me. He promised we'd be together. He promised." For a long moment, I just looked at her. My daughter, 30 years old, face twisted with desperation, hands shaking, as she stood before 17 witnesses and proclaimed Tyler Brooks's love like it was a shield. "Sit down, Lauren," I said quietly. The room held its breath. Lauren wavered, her eyes darting to Tyler, as if he might save her. But Tyler sat frozen, his face carefully blank. Officer Jenkins had shifted closer, blocking the exit. "Sit down." She sank into her chair, and I reached beneath the table. This time I pulled out 17 manila folders, each one thick with documents. I passed them around the table. Patricia opened hers with trembling hands. David's face went hard as stone. Emma covered her mouth. Bank records, I said. 2 years of transfers. Every Wednesday at 2:47 p.m., $4,200 left my business account and moved to an offshore account controlled by Lauren and Tyler Brooks. Patricia looked up, her face pale. Charles, this is $500,000. 550,000, I confirmed. But that wasn't enough. I flipped to the second tab. Last May, someone took out a mortgage on my house. $125,000. Forged my signature. The money went directly into Lauren's personal account. Dad, please, Lauren's voice broke. And last September. I continued. Someone changed the beneficiary on my life insurance policy. $1.1 million. Changed to Lauren Lawson. I looked at my daughter, using my forged signature. That's when I knew, I said. This wasn't just theft anymore. This was a plan to kill me. The word kill seemed to suck all the air from the room. Margaret Foster gasped. Emma started crying again. 3 attempts, I said. The first was 2 weeks ago. Someone loosened the bolts on my car's steering column while it was parked outside my house. I turned to Lauren. You stayed over the night before. You had access. I pulled out a photo, the mechanic's report, the close-up of the tampering. The car nearly went off the road. If I hadn't reacted in time, I'd be dead. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. The second attempt was a week ago, at my store. I produced another photo, the broken ladder, the loosened bolts. I was carrying a 40-pound lamp when the 7th rung gave way. My assistant Marcus caught me, or I would have fallen 18 feet onto concrete. I looked around the table. Lauren visited the store the day before. She spent 15 minutes alone in the mezzanine area. And the third attempt, I said, my voice hardening, was 3 days ago. Someone broke into my house and poisoned this bottle of whiskey. I gestured to Sharon, who pulled out a sealed evidence bag, benzodiazepines, enough to cause respiratory failure when combined with alcohol. I looked directly at Lauren. I have you on security camera entering my house at 11:47 p.m., going to my liquor cabinet, and leaving 12 minutes later. The silence was suffocating. Emma was sobbing openly now. So this morning, I continued. When I came here with that bottle and poured everyone a drink, it wasn't poisoned anymore. Sharon had replaced the contents. I looked at Lauren and Tyler. She said, I wanted to see if you'd try to stop me from drinking it. You didn't. You watched. You waited. You wanted me dead. No. Lauren's voice was a shriek. Tyler said we just needed the money. He said once we had enough, we'd go away together. We'd be happy he'd leave. She stopped, her hand flying to her mouth. Leave, I repeated softly. Leave, who, Lauren? Sharon stood and walked around the table. She placed photographs in front of Lauren. That's Melissa Brooks, Sharon said quietly. Tyler's wife and their son Oliver. They live in Harrisburg. Tyler goes home to them every other weekend. Lauren stared at the photos. Her face went through confusion, disbelief, comprehension, devastation. She looked up at Tyler, her eyes wide and shattered. Her voice was barely a whisper. You're married, you have a son. Tyler said nothing. You said you loved me. You said we'd be together. She broke off, gasping. I did this for you. I stole from my father for you. I tried to. She couldn't finish. Her hands came up to cover her face, and her shoulders heaved with silent sobs. Slowly, I turned to Evelyn. She sat rigid, her face a mask of forced composure. What did you know? I asked. I knew about the money, she whispered. I knew she was taking money. Evelyn continued, her voice shaking. She told me you were being controlling, that she was desperate. I thought it was temporary. I helped her with the signatures. because I thought it was for her future. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know about the insurance policy. I didn't know about the murder attempts. I swear to God, Charles, I didn't know. But you knew about the theft, I said flatly. For 2 years, you knew she was stealing from me and you helped her do it. Evelyn's face crumpled. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Detective Palmer stood. He pulled his badge from his jacket. Maplewood Police Department. Tyler Brooks, Lauren Lawson. Evelyn Lawson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, embezzlement, and attempted murder. Officer Jenkins and Sharon moved in. They pulled Lauren to her feet first. She didn't resist, just stood there limply. Jenkins cuffed her wrists and began reading her rights. Lauren didn't seem to hear. She was crying silently. Tyler stood when they approached, his expression cold and defiant. He didn't look at Lauren. Didn't look at anyone. Evelyn looked at me as Sharon took her arm, her eyes pleading. Charles, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I said nothing. Just watched as they led her away. The dining room door closed behind them with a soft click. For a long moment, no one moved. 16 people sat frozen, the untouched memorial dinner gone cold. Patricia was crying. David had his head in his hands. Emma clung to her mother. My father stood slowly and walked around the table. He wrapped his arms around me, and I felt his whole body shaking. "One," he whispered, his voice thick with tears. "You're free now." But I didn't feel free. I felt hollow, empty. I looked around at the faces of my family, shocked, grieving, bewildered, and realized justice had only just begun. The hard part, the healing, still lay ahead. After the police cars pulled away, red and blue lights fading into the November night, the family sat in stunned silence. The memorial dinner meant to honor my mother's memory had become a crime scene. Patricia broke down crying. Emma wrapped her arms around her aunt. David paced the dining room, running his hands through his hair. And I stood by the window, watching the darkness swallow the last traces of the squad car carrying my daughter. Gone. My family was gone. Behind me, Diane Carter, Evelyn's younger sister, sat at the table with her face in her hands. I can't believe it. My sister. Evelyn always seemed so devoted to you, Charles. People change. I said, my voice flat. Or maybe I never really knew them. Patricia came to stand beside me, her eyes red and swollen. Charles, I'm so sorry. You couldn't have known, I said. I didn't even know until a month ago. Across the room, my father sat in my mother's chair, looking decades older than he had this morning. I should have seen it, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Lauren was asking me about my will. I thought she was just being practical. I crossed the room and knelt in front of him. Dad, this isn't your fault. She's my granddaughter. His voice broke. And she was planning to... He couldn't finish. His face crumpled and he covered it with his hands. I wrapped my arms around him, and we both cried. Two men mourning the loss of someone who wasn't even dead, just gone in a different, more terrible way. One by one they left. Hugs at the door, tears, promises to call to check in. Patricia was the last to leave besides David. She gripped both my hands. Charles, you're staying here with Raymond tonight, right? You shouldn't be alone. Actually, I said, I'm going home. I need to face it. David drove me back to Maplewood Heights. For the first 10 minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, David broke the silence. When I was 17, I stole $50 from Dad's wallet. Do you remember? I glanced at him. Yeah. He made you work it off at the store. I felt so ashamed. But this... what Lauren did... He shook his head. It's incomprehensible. She's sick, I said. Or greedy, or both. I don't know anymore. Do you still love her? The question hit me like a punch. I stared out the window at the dark fields rushing past. I don't know that either, We pulled into my driveway just before 10. David looked at me. Want me to come in? No, I said. I need to do this alone. I stood on the porch and watched his taillights disappear. Then I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The house smelled like Evelyn's lavender candles. The living room was exactly as we'd left it this morning, her knitting basket by the couch, a mystery novel face down on the coffee table, like she'd just stepped out and would be back any minute. I walked through the rooms slowly. Lauren's baby photos on the mantel, family portraits on the walls, the kitchen where Evelyn had made pancakes every Sunday morning for 30 years. I stopped outside Lauren's old bedroom. She hadn't lived at home in years, but she'd kept some things here. I opened the door and turned on the light. Her bed was made. The walls were still covered with posters from bands she'd worshipped in high school. A stuffed bear sat on the pillow, the one I'd given her for her 5th birthday. I sat down on the bed and picked up the bear. It smelled like dust and old fabric and memories, and I broke. The sobs came from somewhere deep inside, wrenching and raw. I doubled over, clutching the bear to my chest, and cried until I couldn't breathe. Where did I go wrong? What did I miss? At 10:30, my phone rang. James Anderson. Charles, I just heard. Are you all right? Define all right. The DA will want to meet with you this week. This is going to be a long process. I'm ready, I said. Charles, are you sure you want to press full charges against Lauren, I mean? She's your daughter. There might be room for a plea deal. No, I said. She tried to kill me 3 times. She doesn't get mercy. At 11, Sharon called with a status update. Lauren and Tyler are being held without bail. Evelyn made bail, her sister Diane posted it. And what happens now? Now we build the case for trial. If convicted, Lauren and Tyler could face 20 years or more. Good, I said quietly. At 11:30, the doorbell rang. A woman stood on my porch, holding a small boy's hand. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying. I opened the door. Mr. Lawson, she said. I'm Melissa, Tyler's wife. I just found out. The police came to my house tonight. I stared at her, at the little boy, at the woman whose husband had tried to help murder me. Come in, I said. We sat in the living room. Oliver curled up on the couch and fell asleep, his head on his mother's lap. I had no idea, she whispered, about any of it. Tyler said he was working. I thought we were happy. She looked at me. He used me. He used all of us. Yes, I said. He did. Your daughter, Lauren, did she know about me? Not until today, I said. He lied to her too. Her breath hitched. What's going to happen to him? Prison, I said. For a long time. And what about us, Oliver and me? We have nothing. I looked at the boy sleeping on the couch. Innocent. Another victim. Just you and your son are victims too, I said. I'll make sure you're taken care of. I'll talk to my lawyer about setting up a fund for Oliver's education, and I'll help you file for divorce. She stared at me, her eyes wide. Why would you help me? Because you're innocent, I said. And because I know what it's like to be betrayed by someone you love. She started crying again. Thank you. I'm so sorry for everything. Take care of your son, I said. He's going to need you. I watched them drive away and locked the door behind them. I went to my bedroom. The bed I'd shared with Evelyn for 32 years. I lay down, staring at the empty space beside me. At 2:00 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think you've won, but you'll regret this. Families forgive. You just destroyed yours. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Who sent it? Tyler Lauren? Or someone else? I didn't reply, but I saved the message, screenshotted it, forwarded it to Sharon, because I knew the battle in the courtroom was just beginning. And some wounds never heal. 2 weeks after the arrests, I sat across from District Attorney Robert Mitchell in his office downtown. Outside early December, rain fell steadily on Maplewood Heights. Inside, the walls were covered with evidence boards, photos, documents, timelines, mapping out my daughter's betrayal. Robert leaned forward, his hands clasped on the desk. He was in his mid-50s with graying hair and the kind of steady demeanor that made juries trust him. "Mr. Lawson," he said, "we need to talk about what comes next. The trial is scheduled for mid-December. We're fast-tracking this given the severity and evidence strength." He turned to the evidence board. Lauren Lawson, 3 counts of attempted murder conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, forgery. If convicted on all counts, she's looking at 20 to 25 years. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face neutral. Out of Tyler Brooks. Robert continued, "Same charges plus extortion. His prior record adds time. He's looking at 22 to 28 years. And Evelyn, 2 counts of fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit fraud. 3 to 7 years, depending on cooperation." He paused. Andrew Peterson found additional offshore accounts. The total stolen is closer to $580,000. I closed my eyes. Another $30,000. We also recovered text messages from Tyler's second phone. Planning your death? Discussing methods. Make it look natural. Stage an accident. He slid a folder across the desk. I opened it. Old guy at his age, heart attack wouldn't be suspicious. Car crash better, more immediate. Ladder fall, broken neck, done. I closed the folder. Anything else? Sharon Reynolds did some digging. Tyler's tried this before. 2 prior victims, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Both women, both older, both wealthy. He manipulated them, stole money, disappeared before charges were pressed. So Lauren wasn't his first target. No, Robert said quietly. He's a predator. He saw vulnerability and exploited it. What about their defense strategies? Lauren's public defender is going with coercion and manipulation. She'll claim Tyler controlled her, that she was afraid. But it's weak. The evidence shows Lauren initiated several theft transactions herself. If she testifies against Tyler and shows genuine remorse, we might offer a plea deal. 10 to 15 years instead of 25. And Tyler, he hired a top-tier criminal defense attorney, using your stolen money. Robert's mouth tightened. His lawyer is arguing lack of direct evidence, that you're fabricating the murder attempts as revenge for the affair. That's absurd. We know. We have text messages, financial records, witness testimony, forensic evidence. We'll convict him. Robert paused. But defense attorneys are good at creating reasonable doubt. We need to be prepared for a fight. When does it start? December 15th? 2 weeks from now. The trial should last 5 to 7 days. 2 days later, I agreed to meet Evelyn at Diane's house. James Anderson and Evelyn's lawyer were both present. Evelyn looked terrible. She'd lost weight, her face gaunt and pale. She sat with her hands folded, not looking at me. "Charles," she said quietly. "Thank you for coming." I didn't respond, just sat down and waited. "I'm so sorry," she began, her voice shaking. "I never wanted you hurt. I thought Lauren just needed help financially. I didn't know she wanted to." Her voice broke. "I didn't know she wanted to kill you." "But you knew she was stealing," I said flatly. "Yes." She looked up, tears streaming. "She told me you were controlling, that she was desperate." I believed her. I thought if I helped her, we'd be closer. I thought I was doing the right thing. "You forged my signature," I said, "multiple times. You helped her steal over $500,000. I didn't know about the murder attempts." Her voice rose. "Charles, I swear to God I didn't know." "Why?" I asked. "After 32 years, Evelyn, why did you betray me?" She was silent for a long moment. I was scared. Scared of getting old. Scared of being irrelevant. Lauren made me feel needed. She confided in me, asked for my help. I felt important. She looked at me with red eyes. I was stupid and selfish. And I'll never forgive myself. I stood up. I hope that's true. Charles, testify, I said. Tell them everything. Maybe that'll help you sleep at night. I walked out before she could respond. That week, I followed through on my promise to Melissa Brooks. I set up an education fund for Oliver, $50,000 for his schooling. I helped Melissa file for divorce and obtain a restraining order against Tyler. You didn't have to do this, she said during one call. Yes, I said, I did. The media attention was relentless. Reporters camped outside my house, my store, even Raymond's place. I declined interviews, issuing one brief statement: this is a private family matter. I ask for privacy as we seek justice. I started therapy with Dr. Susan Campbell the week after the arrests. She helped me untangle the guilt, the anger, the exhaustion. You didn't push her to steal or to try to kill you, she said during one session. Those were her choices, not yours. I wanted to believe her. Raymond's health took a hit. The stress triggered a mild heart episode, and he spent 3 days in the hospital in late November. I stayed with him for a week after cooking meals, helping around the house. He said one evening, I'm proud of you. You did the right thing. Your mother would be proud too. I hope so, Dad. Patricia and David checked in regularly. We started having family dinners at Patricia's house on Sundays, just the siblings trying to rebuild something that felt normal. Slowly, painfully, life began to resemble something functional. I returned to work at Lawson's Furniture Gallery in early December. Marcus and Jennifer were supportive, respectful, never prying. Business slowed at first, but gradually the community rallied. Sales picked back up. One evening in mid-December, just days before the trial was set to begin, I came home to find a letter from the county jail. The handwriting was shaky, childlike. Dad, I know you hate me. I hate me too. But I need you to know I never stopped loving you. I just loved the idea of freedom more. Tyler promised me a life I thought I deserved. I see now how wrong I was. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully, put it in a drawer, and didn't respond. Some apologies come too late. December 15th, 2025. The courthouse in downtown Maplewood Heights was an imposing building of gray stone and tall windows. I stood at the bottom of the steps, camera flashes erupting around me, reporters shouting questions I didn't answer. Behind me, James Anderson placed a steady hand on my shoulder. Ready? He asked. I took a breath of the cold December air. Let's end this. Inside courtroom 4B was packed with family members, journalists, and curious locals. Judge Margaret Thornton sat behind the bench, a woman in her early 60s with steel gray hair and a reputation for running a tight courtroom. Lauren sat at the defense table on the left, thin and pale in a navy blouse, her hair pulled back. She looked younger than 30, almost childlike. Beside her sat Sarah Montgomery, her public defender. Tyler sat at the other defense table wearing a dark suit that probably cost $2,000, my $2,000. His lawyer, Dennis Harper, was a high-priced criminal defense attorney. Tyler looked calm, almost bored. I sat in the front row behind the prosecution, flanked by James and Sharon. My father sat beside me, his hand gripping mine. Patricia and David were behind us. The family that remained. Jury selection had taken 2 days. 12 jurors and 2 alternates, a mix of ages and backgrounds carefully vetted by both sides. Judge Thornton gavelled the room to silence. The state of Pennsylvania versus Lauren Lawson and Tyler Brooks. We will now hear opening statements. Mr. Mitchell, D.A. Robert Mitchell stood approaching the jury box. Ladies and gentlemen, he began. This is a case about greed manipulation and the ultimate betrayal, a daughter and her lover conspiring to murder a father for money. He paused. Over the next week, you will hear evidence of systematic theft spanning 24 months. You will see forged documents, offshore bank accounts, and shell companies designed to hide stolen funds, totaling $580,000. And you will hear testimony about 3 calculated attempts to end Charles Lawson's life: a sabotaged car, a rigged ladder, and a poisoned bottle of whiskey. He gestured toward the evidence table. The evidence is clear, the intent is undeniable, and justice demands accountability. Sarah Montgomery stood next, approaching the jury with a softer demeanor. My client made terrible choices, she said, gesturing toward Lauren. But Lauren Lawson is not a murderer. She is a victim of Tyler Brooks, a manipulative predator who exploited her. She paused. Lauren fell in love with the wrong man. She trusted him, and he used that trust to control her, to coerce her into actions she never would have taken on her own. Yes, she participated in theft. But she is not a killer. She is a broken young woman who deserves compassion, not condemnation. Dennis Harper stood adjusting his cufflinks. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution wants you to believe my client is a monster. But where is the direct evidence? Text messages can be misinterpreted. Financial transactions can be explained. My client loved Lauren Lawson. That is not a crime. And Charles Lawson, he gestured toward me, is a man scorned, angry that his daughter chose independence over obedience. Reasonable doubt exists, and that doubt demands acquittal. The first 3 days covered financial evidence. Andrew Peterson took the stand and walked the jury through 24 months of transactions, every transfer, every shell company, every offshore account. This wasn't an accident, he said. This was a deliberate, sophisticated scheme to steal money and hide it. Bank representatives testified, confirming the forged signatures on loan documents. One banker identified Lauren's handwriting on a deposit slip. Day 4. I took the stand. Robert Mitchell led me through the timeline, how I discovered the first transfer, how I hired the team, how I uncovered the full scope of the theft. Then Dennis Harper cross-examined me. Mr. Lawson, isn't it true you had a controlling relationship with your daughter? No, I said. I loved her and trusted her completely. That trust was betrayed. You were angry when you found out about Tyler, weren't you? I was hurt, I said. But my anger didn't forge documents or steal $500,000. Days 5 and 6 focused on the attempted murders. Mike, my mechanic, testified, showing photos of the loosened steering components. I've been a mechanic for 30 years, Mike said flatly. This was deliberate. Marcus took the stand and described the ladder incident, showing photos of the tool marks on the bolts. She was the only non-employee near the ladder that day, Marcus said, and the bolt pattern matches the wrench she bought at Riverside Hardware. We have the receipt. A lab technician testified about the sedatives found in the whiskey bottle, explaining why the dosage would have been lethal. Then I testified again about November 18th, the morning I drank the replaced bottle, pretending to collapse, watching Lauren and Tyler as they stood over me and did nothing. She didn't call 911, I said, my voice breaking slightly. She stood there watching me, waiting for me to die. The courtroom was silent. On day 8, Lauren took the stand. Sarah Montgomery led her through the testimony gently. Lauren cried, her voice shaking as she described falling in love with Tyler, trusting him. He said my dad was keeping money from me, she said, wiping her eyes. That I deserved more. He said if Dad wasn't around, we could be together. I was so stupid. I loved him. She claimed Tyler had done the car and ladder sabotage on his own, that she'd only helped with the financial theft. Then Robert Mitchell stood for cross-examination. Did you buy the wrench used to sabotage the ladder? Lauren hesitated. Tyler asked me to. I didn't know why. Did you put sedatives in your father's whiskey bottle? Another pause. Tyler gave me the pills. He said they'd just make Dad sleep. You expect this jury to believe, Mitchell said slowly, that you thought a lethal dose of sedatives was meant for a conversation. Lauren broke down, sobbing. I don't know what I thought I wasn't thinking. The judge called a recess. On day 9, Tyler Brooks took the stand. He was confident, smooth. He smiled at the jury, charming, disarming. I loved Lauren, he said. But I never wanted anyone hurt. Mr. Lawson has fabricated this entire murder plot because he couldn't accept his daughter's independence. Then D.A. Robert Mitchell stood a file in his hand. Mr. Brooks, he said calmly, let's talk about your text message from November 3rd sent to Lauren Lawson at 11:47 p.m. He read from the file. And once the old man is dead, we're set for life. Would you like to explain what you meant by that? Tyler's face went pale. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Take your time, Mitchell said, and I knew we had him. December 22nd, 2025. The jury had been deliberating for one day. I sat in the hallway outside courtroom 4B, hands clasped between my knees, staring at the marble floor. Patricia sat beside me, her hand resting on mine. Raymond leaned against the wall, looking frailer than I'd ever seen him. David paced the hallway. The waiting was unbearable. Then the door opened. The bailiff stepped out. The jury has reached a verdict. My heart stopped. This was it. We filed back into the courtroom. The benches were packed. Tyler sat at his table, jaw tight. Lauren looked pale, her eyes red and swollen. Judge Thornton entered. We all stood, then sat. Has the jury reached a verdict? She asked. The foreperson, a middle-aged man in a blue shirt, stood. We have your honor. In the matter of the state versus Tyler Brooks, on the charge of attempted murder in the first degree, count 1, how do you find guilty? The word hit like a thunderclap. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Tyler's face went white. Conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. Guilty on all counts, Your Honor. The courtroom erupted. I closed my eyes and exhaled. Thank God. And in the matter of the state versus Lauren Lawson, Judge Thornton continued. On the charge of attempted murder in the first degree, count 1, how do you find? The foreperson looked at Lauren. Guilty. Lauren made a small broken sound. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Lauren collapsed forward, sobbing. Sarah Montgomery put an arm around her. Conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. I'm guilty on all counts, Your Honor. I felt no joy, only a deep, aching sadness. Judge Thornton banged her gavel. The defendants will remain in custody pending sentencing. We will reconvene in 1 hour for victim impact statements and sentencing. An hour later, I stood at the podium. I looked at Lauren first, then at Tyler. On Lauren. I began, you are my daughter. I raised you. I loved you. And you tried to kill me 3 times. I paused. Not for survival, not for safety, for money, for greed, and for a man who lied to you from the beginning. Lauren sobbed quietly. On Tyler. I turned to him. You preyed on my family. You manipulated my daughter. You're a predator. And you deserve everything that's coming to you. I took a breath. I forgive you both. Not for your sake, but for mine. Because holding on to hate would let you win. But forgiveness doesn't mean freedom from consequences. You both deserve every year of the sentences you're about to receive. Lauren looked up, tears streaming. Dad, I'm so sorry. I know, I said quietly. But sorry doesn't undo what you did. I sat down. The courtroom was silent. Judge Thornton looked at Tyler. Mr. Brooks, you are a con artist, a manipulator, and a would-be murderer. Your prior criminal history shows a clear pattern of exploiting vulnerable individuals for financial gain. I sentence you to 24 years in state prison. You will be eligible for parole after 20 years. Tyler shot to his feet. This is insane. I didn't... Get down, Mr. Brooks, Judge Thornton said coldly. The bailiffs dragged him out, his voice echoing down the hallway. Judge Thornton turned to Lauren. Ms. Lawson, this court recognizes that you were manipulated by Mr. Brooks. However, you are an adult who made conscious, repeated choices to steal from and harm your father. I sentence you to 18 years in state prison. You will be eligible for parole after 15 years. Lauren's sobs turned into wails. Dad, please. I love you. I sat, frozen tears streaming down my face, unable to speak. The bailiffs led her away. Lauren looked back at me one last time, her face pale, her eyes desperate. I looked away. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I gave one brief statement. Justice was served today, I said. My hope is that others can learn from this tragedy. Trust but verify. Protect your assets. And if you see signs of manipulation in a loved one, intervene before it's too late. James led me away before they could ask more questions. That evening, we gathered at Patricia's house. Raymond, Patricia, and Michael, David, and Rebecca, Emma, James, Sharon. No celebration. Just quiet relief and exhaustion. What will you do now, Charles? Patricia asked. Steer build, I said. The store. My life. Myself. 2 days later, I drove to Maplewood County Jail. Lauren was being transferred to state prison in a week. This would be my last chance. They led me to a visitation room. Gray walls, metal chairs, glass partition, with phones on either side. I sat down and waited. Lauren appeared on the other side wearing an orange jumpsuit, her hair lank and unwashed. She picked up the phone. I did the same. Dad, she whispered. You came. I needed to see you, I said. To say goodbye. Her face crumpled. I know you hate me. I don't hate you, I said. I hate what you did. There's a difference. Will you ever forgive me? I already have, I said. But that doesn't mean we can have a relationship. Not now. Maybe not ever. She nodded, tears streaming. I understand. Dad. I really am sorry. For everything. I believe you, I said. But you have 18 years to think about why you did this. Use that time. Become better. Will you write to me? She asked, her voice breaking. I don't know, I said. Goodbye, Lauren. I hung up the phone and stood. Behind the glass, Lauren sobbed, pressing her hand against the partition. I turned and walked away. As I drove home that night, I passed Lawson's Furniture Gallery, Riverside Park, where I'd taught Lauren to ride a bike, the house where Evelyn and I had raised our family. And I realized my old life was gone. Everything I thought I knew about family, about love, about trust had been shattered. But in the ruins, something new was beginning to grow. The question was, what would I build from the ashes? The answer would come in time. Late December 2025. 1 month had passed since the sentencing. I stood in my furniture store looking out at the cold December rain falling on Main Street, shoppers hurrying past with umbrellas. The store was busy again, customers browsing for last-minute Christmas gifts. Marcus helping a young couple, Jennifer, gift-wrapping purchases at the register. And I felt different. Not healed, not yet. But steadier. Like I'd found my footing after months of freefall. Healing, I'd learned from Dr. Campbell, doesn't have a finish line. It's a journey you take one day at a time. I was still living in the house on Maple Street, but I'd started looking at smaller apartments downtown. Too many memories here. I wasn't ready to move yet, but I knew the day was coming. Maybe after the new year. My routine had shifted. Wake at 6, coffee while watching the sunrise, walk to the store by 7:30. Work until 5. Mondays and Thursdays, gym. Tuesdays therapy with Dr. Campbell, other evenings dinner with Patricia or David, or reading in my living room trying to reclaim the silence as peaceful instead of haunting. No dating. People asked Patricia especially, but the idea felt impossible. Maybe someday. Not now. The business had stabilized faster than I'd expected. The community rallied. People came in specifically to shake my hand, to tell me they admired what I'd done. Sales picked up. I even hired a new part-time employee, Kevin, a recent business school graduate. And I'd started planning something new, financial literacy workshops at the store. Free monthly seminars about recognizing fraud-protecting assets. If my pain could help even one person avoid what I went through, it would be worth it. Therapy was still weekly. Dr. Campbell's office had become the one place I could talk about things I couldn't say anywhere else. Shakira, Charles. She said during our session the week before Christmas, "You've made incredible progress in just a month. Now we're working on the harder part, rebuilding. I don't know how to trust anymore," I admitted. Every time I think about letting someone in, I remember what happened. "You don't have to trust the way you did before," she said gently. "But you can learn to trust wisely, with boundaries, with awareness. Trust doesn't mean blind faith anymore. It means informed faith." I still had nightmares. Dreams of Lauren standing over me. Dreams of the car careening off the road. Dreams of Evelyn's face, cold and distant. But Dr. Campbell said that was normal. They'd fade with time. Every Sunday, I drove to Pinewood to have lunch with Raymond. The drive had become a ritual, 45 minutes through the countryside, time to think and breathe. Raymond had aged visibly since the trial. The stress had triggered a mild heart episode in early December, but he was home now, recovering slowly. "Charles," he said one Sunday as we sat by the fireplace, "I'm proud of you. Your mother would be proud too." "Thanks, Dad. Some days are still really hard. They always will be," he said. "But you're strong, like Mildred was." Family dinners had started up again, small gatherings at Patricia's house on Sunday evenings. We laughed, told stories, carefully avoided talking about the trial. Emma had announced plans to start a blog about financial fraud awareness, inspired by what happened. David and I had grown closer than we'd been in years. "You're my hero, brother," he told me one night over beers. I shook my head. "I'm no hero. I'm just a guy who survived." "That's exactly what makes you a hero." Evelyn was living with her sister Diane, working part-time at a flower shop as part of her probation. She'd sent me 2 letters in the past month, apologizing, asking if we could talk. I hadn't responded. James Anderson told me I didn't owe her anything. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. I'd kept my promise to Melissa Brooks. I'd set up an education fund for Oliver, $50,000 for his future schooling. I'd helped Melissa file for divorce and get a restraining order against Tyler. "You didn't have to do this," she'd said. "Yes," I said, "I did. Oliver's innocent in all this. He deserves a chance." Lauren was at the county jail waiting for transfer to Cedar Hills Correctional Facility upstate. She'd sent me 3 letters in the past month. I'd read the first 2, but couldn't bring myself to read the third. It sat unopened on my kitchen counter. Dr. Campbell said I'd know when I was ready. Tyler was at a different facility awaiting his own transfer. His lawyer had filed an appeal, but James said it wouldn't go anywhere. He'd serve every year of his sentence. Good. I'd started accepting invitations to speak small events so far. A talk at the Rotary Club. A presentation at the Senior Center about recognizing manipulation. People listened. A few shared their own stories of family betrayal, financial abuse. It felt like something not quite purpose yet, but the beginning of it. I'd recovered about $200,000 of the stolen money through asset seizures. The rest was gone, disappeared into offshore accounts. But I'd made peace with that. The money didn't matter anymore. I had the store, I had my family, I had my life. On December 26th, the day after Christmas, I drove to Evergreen Cemetery, where Mom was buried. The December air was freezing as I stood at her grave. "Hi, Mom," I said quietly. "It's been 5 weeks since the sentencing. I'm doing okay, not great, but okay." I placed a small wreath of white roses on the headstone, her favorite. "I think you'd be proud of me. I survived. I'm still here." As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Campbell. "Charles, though I have news. Lauren's caseworker reached out. Lauren wants to do a restorative justice session with you before her transfer-mediated therapeutic focused on healing and accountability. It's scheduled for next week if you're interested. Are you ready?" I stared at the message, the cold wind biting at my face. A chance to face Lauren again. Not in anger, not in a courtroom, but in a controlled space meant for healing. Was I ready? I didn't know. But maybe it was time to find out. December 28th, 2025. I sat in a small conference room at Maplewood County Jail, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. Through the narrow window, I could see the gray December sky. The room smelled like industrial cleaner and stale coffee. Dr. Campbell sat beside me. "You don't have to do this," she said gently. "No one will judge you if you walk away." I took a breath. I need to, for both of us. The door opened. A guard escorted Lauren inside. It was time. Ms. Rebecca Harris, a licensed mediator who specialized in restorative justice, entered behind Lauren. She was in her 50s with kind eyes and a calm demeanor. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Lawson," she said. "Ground rules, no interruptions, speak from personal experience, listen actively. The goal isn't reconciliation, it's understanding and accountability." I nodded, my throat tight. Lauren sat down across from me. She was thinner than I remembered, her hair pulled back, her face pale without makeup. She wore the Orange County Jail uniform. 6 weeks incarcerated. 17 years and 10 months still ahead. Her eyes met mine. Fear, shame, hope. "Hi, Dad," she said quietly. "Hello, Lauren." Miss Harris sat at the head of the table. "Charles, would you like to start? Tell Lauren how her actions affected you." I looked at my daughter. "This stranger who used to be my little girl. You tried to kill me." I said, my voice steady. 3 times. Every day since I've wondered why. "What did I do that made you want me dead?" Lauren's face crumpled. "I didn't hate you, Dad. I never hated you." "Then why?" My voice broke. "Why did you do it?" She wiped her eyes. "I was greedy. I was stupid. I wanted things I thought I deserved. Tyler made it seem easy, like you wouldn't miss the money, like it wasn't really hurting anyone." She paused. "But that's a lie I told myself. I knew it was wrong. I just didn't care enough to stop. When you tampered with my car," I said, "when you loosened those bolts on the ladder, when you put sedatives in my whiskey, you knew you were trying to kill me. You knew. I knew." Her voice was barely audible, and I hate myself for it every single day. Ms. Harris leaned forward. "Lauren, can you help Charles understand your mindset at the time?" Lauren took a shaky breath. "I felt like I was never enough. You and Mom had this perfect life, and I was just there. Invisible. Tyler made me feel special. He said we could have everything if we just took it." She looked at me, tears streaming. "I convinced myself you owed me, that I deserved it, for all the years of feeling second place." I stared at her, stunned. "Second place, Lauren, I loved you more than anything. The store was how I provided for you." I know that now," she said. "But back then I twisted everything in my mind. I made you the villain so I could justify what I was doing." I felt something crack open inside me. "Do you understand what you took from me? Not just money. You took my ability to trust. You took my marriage. You took the daughter I loved. You took my peace." "Hun, I know," she sobbed. "And I'm so sorry. I can't undo it. I wish I could." "Sorry isn't enough," I said. "It never will be. But I need to know if you could go back, would you do it differently?" "Yes." She looked me straight in the eyes. 1,000 times, yes. I'd walk away from Tyler. I'd tell you what he was planning. I'd choose you. But you didn't, I said quietly. And now we're both living with the consequences. Silence filled the room. "Dad," Lauren said finally, "have you forgiven me?" I closed my eyes, took a breath, opened them. "Well, I'm working on it," I said. "I forgive the version of you that was manipulated by Tyler. I'm still angry at the version that made the choice to participate." "Does that make sense?" She nodded, tears streaming. "Yes, I'm angry at that version too," Dr. Campbell spoke up. "Forgiveness isn't binary, Lauren. It's a process. Charles is allowed to hold both compassion and anger." "Do you think we could ever have a relationship again when I get out?" Lauren asked. I considered carefully. "I don't know. That's 15 years away minimum. We're both different people now." "But you're here," she said. "That means something, right?" It means I care enough to try to understand," I said. "It doesn't mean everything goes back to normal. Trust is earned, Lauren, and you destroyed every bit of trust I had." "I understand," she whispered. Ms. Harris looked at Lauren. "Is there anything you want to commit to moving forward?" "I'm signing up for every program they offer. GED classes start next month. Therapy twice a week. Vocational training. I'm reading books about accountability, about changing patterns." She looked at me. "I'm going to become someone you can be proud of. Even if you're not in my life to see it. Do it for yourself," I said. "Not for me." The session lasted an hour and a half. When it ended, Lauren stood slowly. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know it was hard. It was. But I needed to see you, to hear you." "Will you come again?" I hesitated. "Maybe. Let's see where we both are in a year." "Okay," she smiled, sad but genuine. "I love you, Dad." Tears finally spilled down my cheeks. "I love you too. But love isn't enough without trust. Earn it back." She nodded. The guard escorted her out. I watched her go, and something in my chest, something that had been clenched tight for weeks, finally loosened. On the drive home, Dr. Campbell asked, "How do you feel?" "Exhausted, sad, but lighter. Like I closed a door I needed to close." "That's healing," she said. "You faced the source of your pain and survived. Again." On New Year's Eve, I stood in my living room, looking out at fireworks blooming in the distant sky. At midnight, I raised a glass of water to the window. "Here's to surviving," I said. "Here's to rebuilding." The next morning, January 1st, 2026, I visited Mom's grave. I placed a small wreath of white roses on her headstone. "Happy New Year, Mom," I said quietly. I made it through. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But I'm still here. And as I walked back to my car, I realized I didn't know what the future held. Whether Lauren would change, whether I'd ever fully heal, whether I'd find love again or learn to trust. But for the first time in months, I felt ready. Ready to face whatever came next. Ready to rebuild. Ready to hope. As I reflect on everything that happened, I realize family betrayal cuts deeper than any knife. When the people you love most become the ones who hurt you, it shakes the foundation of everything you believe. My story. This painful chapter of Grandpa's stories I've shared with you taught me lessons I never wanted to learn. Don't be like me. Don't ignore the warning signs because you love someone. Don't assume trust is permanent just because someone shares your blood. Protect yourself even from those closest to you. Verify financial transactions. Keep your documents secure. And if something feels wrong, investigate before it's too late. Family betrayal is more common than we want to admit. These grandpa stories aren't just mine. They belong to thousands of people who trusted blindly and paid the price. Family betrayal can happen to anyone at any age. In my darkest moments, I turned to God. I prayed for strength, for wisdom, for the ability to forgive what seemed unforgivable. Faith didn't erase the pain, but it gave me the grace to keep moving forward. My personal belief: forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means refusing to let bitterness destroy what's left of your life. Love your family, but love yourself enough to set boundaries. These grandpa stories we share matter. They're warnings wrapped in heartbreak, meant to protect the next person from walking my path. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Have you experienced family betrayal? How did you heal? Subscribe to this channel for more stories that explore the complex realities of family trust and survival. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for staying with me until the end. I know it wasn't easy. Disclaimer: future stories may contain fictionalized elements created for educational purposes. If this content isn't for you, feel free to explore other videos that better suit your preferences.